Right, today I will talk about writing persuasive messages. Apply the three-step writing process to persuasive messages. Persuasion is the attempt to change an audience's attitudes, beliefs, or actions. Step 1, planning persuasive messages. Create successful persuasive messages. Having a great idea is not enough, and you need to convince others. We're also competing against all sorts of messages out there, and it's not something that we are at odds with, or we don't usually do in our everyday life. We persuade all the time. We will persuade our colleagues to help us with something. You will persuade your friends to join you in socializing. You will persuade your family to go on holiday together. So these are the different experiences that you would possibly go through. Analyzing the situation, the most effective persuasive messages are closely connected to what your audience finds important. So you've got to look at their demographics, psychographics, and what motivates them. Try and understand them better, because the message is all about them, isn't it? It's for them. It's not for you. Appealing to audience needs. Now, this draft of a response to an inquiry about an editorial services company's offerings addresses the writer's concern about the time, cost, and effectiveness of the company's services. There are several needs that have implications for communication. Basic needs, right? The need for food, water, sleep, oxygen. So everyone has these needs, but the degree of attention an individual gives to them depends on whether the needs are being met. For instance, an ad for sleeping pills will be more satisfying for those who have problems with sleeping. They have insomnia, rather than those who are not having that problem. Safety and security, the needs for protection from bodily harm, for example, right, is also something which people would think about in their communication. They would think about their communication, they would address it, they would convey it, and they would seek for information that addresses this need for safety and security. So, for example, there are ads for life insurance. It provides some kind of security for us, isn't it? There is the traveling insurance. When we travel, we want to ensure that we are protected in such a way. There's that feeling of safety and security. Affiliation and belonging. We need to be loved. We need acceptance. We need companionship. It's something that's natural and normal for everyone. So the need to feel loved, accepted, or popular drives a great deal of human behavior, from the desire to be attractive to potential spouses to wearing the clothing style that a particular social group is likely to approve. So you want to have that sense of belonging. You want to belong to a particular group, so you want to dress like them. Power and control, the need to feel in control of situations or to exert authority over others. You can see several examples appealing to this in advertisements. Take control of your life, your finances, your future, your career, and so on. Achievement, the need to feel a sense of accomplishment so that you're admired by others. This need can involve both knowing when people experience a feeling of accomplishment and showing when people are able to show others that they've achieved success. Advertising for luxury consumer products frequently appeals to this need. There's the need for adventure and distraction. Maybe they crave excitement, knowledge, exploration, and understanding. They would see learning as a means to an end, right? It's a means to be promoted. It's a means to get a qualification so that they could be promoted, for example. But for others, it could be an end in itself, right? Aesthetic appreciation, the desire to experience beauty, order, symmetry, and so on. The shape of a package has to be attractive to people. The quality of gemstones in a piece of jewelry has to be attractive to people, has to be appreciated by others, right? So this will implicate the communication you have with others. These are the whole idea of aesthetics is possibly something which people desire. Self-actualization, to reach one's full potential as a human being. And there are psychologists that actually deal with this. Kurt Goldstein and Abraham Maslow popularized self-actualization Yeah, the desire to make the most of one's potential, and Maslow identified it as one of the higher level needs in his classic hierarchy of needs. Even if people met most or all of their other needs, they would still feel the need to self-actualize. An often quoted example of appealing to this need is the US Army's one-time advertising slogan, "Be all that you can be." Helping others, it can also be a need. This need is central in terms of fundraising. Yeah, people want to help societies, NGOs, and whatnot. Selecting the right combination of medium and channel, you need to choose a combination of medium and channel that is the right combination. Understand and respect your audience's habits. Yeah, and social media allows for communication to happen effectively. And of course, with social media, people expect to also ask questions, make comments, and they expect responses. Organizing your information, focus on the receiver. It's not all about you. It's you sending a message to the receiver. How could you make your persuasive messages effective? Use the indirect approach. Usually this is the case with persuasive messages. Before you directly communicate what is it that you want people to do, you build up to, you come up with a background, you come up with rationalizations, with evidence and whatnot. Step 2, writing persuasive messages. You need to use positive, polite language, understand and respect cultural differences, be sensitive to organizational cultures, and establish your credibility. Only then you would be able to be influential in your writing. Techniques: use straightforward language, provide objective evidence, right, for the claims and promises you make. Identify your sources, especially if your audience already respects those sources. Establish common ground by emphasizing beliefs, attitudes, and background experiences you have in common with the audience. Be objective and present fair and logical arguments, and show that you respect your audience's values and priorities. Persuade with logic, evidence, and compelling narratives rather than trying to coerce, trying to force people with high pressure. Hard sell by using hard sell tactics. Yeah, this is not nice. Whenever possible, try to build your credibility before you present a major proposal or ask for a major decision. That way, audiences don't have to evaluate both you and your message at the same time. So you need to have credibility and build this. Competing persuasive messages match the purpose and organization to audience needs. Proofread and ensure the distribution methods fit audiences' expectations. How would they like the persuasive messages to be delivered, right? To be delivered to them. So this is something that you need to think about. What would they expect? Persuasive business messages are those that you will most likely be doing, right? And you possibly will be asking for people's approval or people to purchase products, right? Effective persuasion involves 4 strategies: framing your arguments, balancing 3 types of persuasive appeals, reinforcing your position, and anticipating objections. Expect that people may object and have the answers, come up with answers in case people object. So framing your arguments, you can use the IDA model. And this is one of the best known models for persuasion. And it's got 4 different phases. And for attention, your first objective is to encourage your audience to want to hear about your problem, idea, or new product, whatever your main idea is. Interest, you provide additional details that prompt audience members to imagine how the solution might benefit them. Desire, help audience members embrace your idea by explaining how the change will benefit them and answering potential objections. And action suggests the specific action you want your audience to take, including a deadline when applicable. The IDA model for persuasive messages, you have here, firstly, you catch the audience's eyes and ears and then get people to pay attention to your message, right? Hey, I want to be healthy, wealthy, and happy. So you're addressing this, yeah? So this is what people want or need, isn't it? Yeah, they want to be healthy, wealthy, and happy. So you catch people's attention by providing them with the right message. Interest, okay, proof that you can help me. How can we help, how we can help you, isn't it? Provide concise information, points that pay off the promise you made to their attention, to get their attention as you build a case that you can meet their individual needs, right? Healthy, wealthy, and happy. So how can the product help you achieve your goals? Desire, move products from I'm interested to I want this, I'm convinced by it, yeah, by continuing to show how your solution would benefit them and by removing any doubts, right? So you can provide details on free trials, endorsements, guarantees. Sounds great, but can you really deliver on that promise, right? And then suddenly motivate them to take action, right? Whether they're seeking more information, making a decision in your favor, making a purchase. So you give 10% off if you buy today. That makes it even better. Let's do that, yeah? Let's do that. So people are convinced. Balancing the three types of persuasive appeals, the three types of appeals: ethos, pathos, and logos. Yeah, emotional appeal calls on feelings. Yeah, emotional appeal calls on feelings, right? So you have when you talk about ethos, the ethical dimension, particularly your credibility as the writer. Pathos, you talk about the emotional appeal, and logos, you talk about the argumentation based on logic and evidence. And the emotional appeal calls on feelings or audience sympathies, right? For instance, you can make use of the emotions inspired by words such as freedom, success, prestige, compassion, free, and comfort. You have the logical appeal, where you have basically reason and factual information. You can use three modes of logical persuasion that are induction, deduction, and analogy. Yeah, with inductive reasoning, you work from specific to general, then you can apply to the situation at hand. With deductive, you work from general or from a general theory or a hypothesis to a specific conclusion. With analogy, you reason from specific evidence to specific evidence, yeah, in effect borrowing from something familiar to explain something unfamiliar. So balancing logical and emotional appeals, as you can see here, there is the emotional and there's the logical aspect to this specific purpose, to persuade management to fund an on-site daycare center. And you have both sides of the argument. You have the emotional argument and you have the logical argument. And the one on the left basically relies heavily on emotional appeals, and the one on the right uses logical appeals. And you can adjust the emotional logical ratio in every message. You can have both, whether you want to be more biased towards the emotional aspect or the logical aspect, right? Which one will work with your audience is the main thing. Balancing the three types of persuasive appeals, fallacies to avoid. So logical fallacies result from misleading readers through faulty language or misusing reasoning tools such as induction and analogy. And the more common logical fallacies that you need to avoid in persuasive communication are hasty or sweeping generalizations. It happens when you jump to a generalization without enough evidence to support it. A sweeping generalization ignores exceptions or contradictions. So circular reasoning is a logical fallacy in which you try to support your claim by restating it using different language. In other words, all you've done is argue around in a circle rather than coming up with a new conclusion. Yeah, the statement, "We know temporary workers cannot handle this task because temps are unqualified for it," doesn't prove anything, because the claim and the supposed evidence are essentially identical. Flawed analogies. Be sure that the two objects or situations being compared are similar enough for the analogy to hold. For instance, explaining that an internet firewall is like a prison wall is a poor analogy, because a firewall keeps things out, keeps viruses out, whereas a prison wall keeps prisoners inside. So it's not a nice comparison. It's not an appropriate one. Inappropriate appeals to tradition. For example, we've always done it this way. Yeah, it doesn't mean that we should do it, right? Because they're not based on evidence and reason. Ad hominem attacks. An ad hominem attack is an attack directed at another person rather than at his or her line of reasoning. So instead of listening to what he has to say based on logic, you are, basically excluding him or not listening to him or attacking him because of the fact that he's a new member, right? Or she's a new member. Oversimplification, simplifying complex situations to make them easier to understand, is a valuable skill, but going too far can lead to a variety of logical fallacies. For instance, reducing a complicated scenario to a simple yes or no choice. Yeah, it's not something that should be done for some matters. Mistaken assumptions or claims of cause and effect. Be careful when you link a cause to an effect without having the right evidence. Reinforcing your position and anticipating objections. You have to realize that you need to choose your words carefully when you reinforce your stance, your position, what you think is right. Consider using metaphors, but of course metaphors can also be very ambiguous, so you've got to be clear. Yeah? Anticipating objections. Perhaps people will say, no, I don't agree with you. So you need to be careful about that. You need to study it before you speak, before you write, because you have to be prepared. Increase your odds of a positive response. So the thing is, you've got to make sure that you are prepared for anything and you have clarified on everything that possibly could be rejected. Yeah. Remove stumbling blocks from the conversation, from the writing. Anticipate likely objections and address them before your audience settles into a negative, defensive mindset, right? So this is something that you need to do. Use a hard sell. Avoid common mistakes in persuasive comm. Using a hard sell. Use a soft sell. Don't use a hard sell, yeah? Rational persuasion. Rational persuasion is more comfortable rather than giving people an ultimatum and you should buy this or else kind of messages. Is very hard selling and people feel forced. So if you were to have a soft sell approach, by telling them, if for example, how online when you choose items, you put them in a cart and for e-commerce, and then you don't check out. So you get an email that says, do you have problems? I noticed that you put things in your cart. Can I assist you in any way? So this is more of a soft sell approach. Resisting compromise, give and take. So there must be a give and take. Don't resist compromises, right? Don't resist compromises, because you have to give in to a certain extent sometimes to get what you want. Relying solely on great arguments, emotionally connect with your audience, right? Don't rely solely on good arguments, on logic per se, but the right emotional level and communication using vivid language are just as important, yeah, rather than dry logic. Assuming that persuasion is a one short effort. No, it's a process. It's not a one-time event. It's often a process. So you need to move your audience members along one small step at a time rather than try to convince them to say yes. Resorting to a deception or unethical behavior. Combine emotional and logical appeals. The combination of both appeals can be a powerful persuasive force. So always keep their needs in mind, the audience's needs in mind, and use it in a positive, ethical manner. So this is a checklist. Common examples of persuasive communication. Persuasive request for action. Goals: gain credibility, helping you solve a problem. Yeah, so most persuasive business messages involve a request for action. So you need to get people to do something, isn't it? Open with attention-getting device. Show readers that you understand their concerns. The bulk of your persuasive business messages will involve requests for action. In some cases, your request will be anticipated, so the direct approach is fine. In others, you'll need to introduce your intention indirectly, and the IDA model or similar model is ideal for this purpose, right? So the goal could be, gaining credibility, helping you solve a problem, persuasive presentations of ideas. The goal is for them to consider a new idea, right? Persuasive claims and requests for adjustments. You outline and continue reviewing the problem. Maybe you have overpaid for something, and the customer has overpaid for something and would like an adjustment, would like you to provide them with a refund. So this is an example of an email reflecting the IDA model. As you can see in the first paragraph, it reflects attention. So the writer gets the reader's attention with a provocative question. Interest, yeah, it sells the problem. Desire, to build Jinhua's desire to consider a new approach, right? So you're writing to Jinhua. So what you do is you provide key benefits to that the new strategy could bring. And then action, the call to action, asks Jinhua for permission to take time off from his regular duties for a few weeks. So that's what you'd like him to do or her to do, Jinhua. Okay, marketing messages and sales messages are there. Yeah, they use the same basic techniques as other persuasive messages, with the added emphasis of encouraging someone to participate in a commercial transaction. Yeah, they're often used interchangeably, but usually there are differences. Marketing messages usher potential buyers through the purchasing process without asking them to make an immediate decision, whereas sales is more of getting them, encouraging them to make a purchase decision then and there. Planning, marketing, and sales messages, assessing audience needs, understand the purchase decision, analyze your competition, right? As with other business message, successful marketing and sales messages start with understanding the audience's needs. Depending on the product and the market, these considerations can range from a few functional factors such as size, weight, and finish of office paper to a complicated mix of emotional and logical issues, right? So it can range from a few functional factors such as the size, the weight, and the finish of office paper, for example, and to a complicated mix of emotional and logical issues. Analyze your competition. Marketing and sales messages nearly always compete with messages from other companies trying to reach the same audience. So when Nike plans a marketing campaign to introduce a new shoe model to current customers, the company knows its audience has also been exposed to messages from Adidas, New Balance, Reebok, and other brands. Finding a unique message in crowded markets can be quite challenging. Determining key selling points and benefits with some insights into audience needs and the alternatives offered by your competitors. The next step is to decide which features and benefits to highlight, and selling points are the most attractive features of a product, whereas benefits are the particular advantages purchasers can realize from those features. In other words, selling points focus on what the product does, benefits focus on what the user experiences or gains. Benefits can be practical, emotional, or a combination of the two. So you need to also anticipate purchase objections. Maybe people may object, may reject the product because of the high price, low quality, lack of compatibility with existing products, perceived risk, whatever it is, you have to anticipate them and you have to address them. IDA model: when writing conventional marketing and sales messages, getting the reader's attention, building interest, expand on and support promises in the opening, increase desire, add details and benefits, persuade readers to take action. Persuade readers to take action. So you pull people's attention. You'll notice the many ways in which advertisers try to get your attention. A headline can offer an exciting product benefit, for example. And then of course you want to build interest after you've caught their attention through the headline and through the visual. You want to build interest, right? You want to pay off the promise made in the headline by delivering and explaining how you can deliver those benefits. And then you want to increase desire. Now that you've given the audience some initial information to start building interest, the next step is to boost desire. Right? Think carefully about the sequence of support points and use plenty of subheadings, hyperlinks, video demonstrations, and others. So this is something that you can do, of course, and you want them to act in such a way by picking up the phone, placing an order, visiting a store, whether it's online or offline. Yeah, so you've got to be clear about that. Social media requires conversational interactive approach, so facilitate community building. Yeah, give customers and other audiences an opportunity to connect with you and one another, such as your Facebook page or through members only online forums. Listen at least as much as you talk. Initiate and respond to conversations online. Provide information that people want. Identify, support your champions. So who are your champions, right? Are they people that are very supportive of your products? So this is something that you can identify. Your enthusiastic fans, they're so enthusiastic, yeah, and you want them to spread good word of mouth, positive word of mouth. Be real, yeah. Social media audiences respond positively to companies that are open and conversational about themselves. They're authentic, sincere. Integrate conventional, yeah, aspects of writing. A promotional messages in social media. Yeah, Stitch Fix uses social media to foster positive relationships with customers, communities, and other company stakeholders. Mobile advertising and mobile commerce, two essential points. Make it short and simple, fast and straightforward mobile experience. Yeah, companies are putting so much emphasis on mobile marketing because mobile devices play a big role in our lives, right? Smartphone users would use their devices for so many things. Entertainment, information, isn't it? Yeah. So promotional messages need to be kept short and simple, and the mobile experience needs to be fast and straightforward. And mobile users are often time constrained, so they don't have time to wait for something to be loading, isn't it? Right? Identify steps you take to avoid ethical lapses. So be aware of the laws and regulations, right, that cover marketing and sales messages. In the US, of course, you have the US and Federal Trade Commission that has the authority to impose penalties, right, on advertisers who violate federal standards for truthful advertising. Yeah. Truthful and non-deceptive messages. You've got to maintain high standards of ethics, legal compliance, and etiquette, politeness. So be truthful, back up claims with evidence. Do not bait and switch, right? So deceive people by trying to attract buyers to buy a product that you don't intend to sell, and then getting them to sell a different product once they've reached out to you. Children's marketing messages and websites subjected to special rules. Disclose products given to online reviewers. So companies must disclose when they give products to online reviewers. Given the strong influence of online product reviews, some companies give products to consumers in exchange for their reviews on Amazon and other retail sites, and the practice is not illegal, but it must be disclosed. Celebrities and other social media influencers must disclose when they are compensated to endorse products. Yeah, so they must use, for example, in the US, they must use the hashtag ad when posting photos or tweets that endorse products. Companies that coordinate with product champions and social media influencers have a responsibility for what those people say to the public. Yeah, so marketers should train the people to be responsible in their communication and monitor what these outside parties write and say about the product. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.